Well, hello everyone. This is Shirley Solis, and I am super excited to be doing this Facebook Live with you. I am bringing a special friend and guest. His name is Omar Pinto. Omar, thanks so much for being with us.
I am excited to be here, Shirley. Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. So Omar lives in Costa Rica. My best friend is from Costa Rica, and you know the Costa Rican saying is always what?
Pura vida.
Pura vida. You're a little too close to the mic, so just put a little...
Am I loud?
Yeah, there. It's perfect now. Awesome.
Okay.
So let me just go ahead and do a quick check-in. We are live on the Facebook page. So if you are watching live with us, we would just love for you to share this, to make sure you give us some hearts. Let us know that you're watching. And what we are going to be talking about today is basically, I want to introduce you to Omar. I want to talk a little bit about something that most people don't often discuss, and it's the topic of addiction or specific tendencies that we might have. And you know, both Omar and I have a background with an experience of addiction of some kind, and we want to educate people. We want to educate the public. We want to educate you and make sure that you share this with other people, because more people have addictions than what you know. And so, isn't that right, Omar?
Yes, and you may have addictions or addictive tendencies and not even really realize it or classify it as addiction. Just kind of like, that's how I am sort of a thing, because you're not basically facing the kind of things or consequences that somebody who's doing drugs and alcohol faces.
Exactly. So let's start by Omar telling us a little bit about you. So tell us, I already said you live in Costa Rica. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
And, tell us a little bit about your family. Tell us about the profession that you're involved with and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Omar Pinto. I have a podcast. It's called The Recovery Revolution. And what I do is I talk to people who have overcome challenges. It was formerly called the Share Podcast, and it was exclusively to discuss recovery, how people battled through addiction, came out the other side, and then really their journey of recovery. I've recently switched a little bit to incorporate a little bit more personal development. Because that's really what I do now. I'm a coach. I classify myself as a life transformation coach. I specialize in addiction recovery. So a lot of my clients have at some point battled with some sort of an addiction. Right. I'm married. I've been married I'll be 5 years married in March. My daughter celebrates her 16th birthday today. I'm originally from California. And I'm 15 years sober. So that's a little bit about me and what I do and that kind of a deal.
That is wonderful. Congratulations on 15 years sober, and your daughter's birthday, 16 years old. Is she your only daughter? Is she your only daughter?
She is. She is.
That
she is.
Wonderful.
And she's my baby.
Aw, well, that's wonderful. So you get to celebrate that you've been a present father for her, which is great.
Yes.
That's, I'm sure you see so many circumstances where there are mothers or fathers where they don't get to be present because of an addiction.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of dig deep into it. Let's jump in head first. Tell us a little bit about what life was before you decided to go sober. So what was the addiction life like before?
Well, for me, it was what I didn't realize is I was soothing something. Like when I started drinking when I was 17 years old, and I never felt so comfortable in my own skin, so accepted and comfortable and free. And what I wasn't able to identify in that moment is how much I was riddled in self-doubt, riddled in fear, and inauthentic. I was completely inauthentic. Because I was constantly being told what I should do, how I should be, how I should act, how I should think. Raised in a very religious household, I didn't really have a mind of my own. So life before addiction, before alcohol, sucked. I was lonely. I was conflicted. I was angry. And the anger didn't actually surface. It was more of withdrawn. I would say that I was more withdrawn until the alcohol. The alcohol actually allowed the anger to come up.
Really?
So people would actually classify me as an angry drunk later on. At first, I was a very happy drunk because for the first time I was able to be me. And this is a lot of things that I try and help people do is identify with what I call one drink Omar or one drink Sally or Shirley. Right. And there is this person that you become when you have that first drink. I have a drink and all of a sudden I feel comfortable. I loosen up.
Yeah.
I start to enjoy myself. I become free. And really, what is that? That's me connecting with the most authentic version of myself, which is that person, that 5-year-old that didn't care about what other people thought about them, that didn't care about being loud and being fun and being gregarious and outgoing, that later on, as very quickly on, it was like, hey, you're too loud. You should, keep it down, right? Yeah. You've gotten, crappy grades in school. You should pay attention,
right.
and so there's
make sure you look like a robot.
Right.
Make sure you look like a robot, right?
Right. And so there was a lot of, and it's not like I want to blame my parents or blame the people around me, but in that generation, people didn't understand what shaming language was and where it came from. And so when you use the word should on somebody, it implies that there's something wrong with them. So for me, I thought there was something wrong with me my whole life. And at 17, I had my first drink, and all of a sudden everything was right in the world and everything was right with me. So that was who I was before I started drinking. Mm-hmm. And then once I started drinking, I was like, I am never not going to drink for the rest of my life. This is it. This is the solution. I found the solution to my problems.
Wow. And what was it? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, was it just alcohol that you were addicted to or that you went to soothe your pain with? Or did you ever go into any other things?
As I moved to Costa Rica in 1999, I moved to Costa Rica and I partied like it was 1999.
Okay.
Boom. So when I moved to Costa Rica, I got introduced to cocaine. Okay. And that was the game changer of all game changers. Cocaine gives you this false sense of euphoria, confidence, strength, whatever you were lacking in cocaine, all of a sudden makes you feel like you have all that. Like it's always been there, and that was the magic powder necessary to unleash all the gifts and talents that were inside, unlocked another door. That was, for example, I started drinking when I was 17. I discovered cocaine when I was 29. So 12 years, let's say 12 years of like drinking and smoking pot and life is fun. Within 4 years of me starting to do cocaine, I completely destroyed my life. I got married when I moved to Costa Rica. I met a Costa Rican girl, and we got married. Launched a business, right? And within 4 years, lost my business, lost my wife. The marriage was destroyed. I was in the worst physical condition ever. I was bordering. The doctor said I had multiple personalities, borderline schizophrenia, drug-induced psychosis. Like it was nutty. Like I was seeing things. Okay, like my sense of paranoia was through the roof. I was just in a state of paranoia at all times. Right. Looking behind my back, they're chasing me, they're coming to get me, that kind of a deal. It was horrific. It had now what it did was doing the complete opposite of what it did before. When I first started doing it, it gave me confidence. It gave me this heightened sense of security and confidence and reassured me of all my capabilities. And towards the end, I was just a hermit, scared of my own shadow, afraid of everyone and everything. I was convinced that my father-in-law was a drug dealer. I was convinced that the guy that was watching the streets was was feeding my wife information about me, that he was, telling lies and spreading gossip. I'd seen Enemy of the State. I don't know if you've seen Enemy of the State.
I've heard about it.
Right, and I thought there was like little listening devices all over me. So I was driving around. I'd be driving around thinking people were chasing me and following me. No, it was horrific. It destroyed me.
Wow.
It destroyed me. It was one of those cocaine rock bottom moments, right? Wow. And at the end there, I wished for death. I had done too much drugs one night. My wife was 6 months pregnant at the time, and I realized that I could no longer continue using drugs the way I was doing them, because I was destroying myself and my family. But I didn't feel like I had the capacity to stop. So I just said, God, I don't know who you are or what you are, and I know I walked away from you a long time ago. But if there is a God in the heavens, just take me out of this world, because I'm not doing anybody here any good. I'm destroying myself and my family. So either take me out of this world, or help me get clean. And I did enough drugs that night that would have killed most people.
Wow.
Pills and weed and alcohol and just everything. It was like I want out. Whatever I took back then would most definitely kill me today, but it didn't kill me then. So I woke up the next morning and I remembered that I had been seeing this therapist, and the therapist said, I can't help you. You're a drug addict. You need to go to 12-step meetings. That's the only thing that I've seen help addicts. And that was it. That was my aha moment. I woke up the next morning and I remembered his words. And I just got up and I drove to his office and I said, I need help. Can you show me how to get to those meetings? Wow. And so he gave me a little map, and that's when my actual journey of recovery started. It started October 3rd, October 5th, 2002. And then I relapsed the following year, about a month after my daughter was born.
Why? What do you think caused the relapse? Was it like, this is too much for me to bear, I'm not ready for this, I'm not strong enough, let me try to feel strong so I can cope with this? I'm guessing. It was 5 months sober, and my wife had now officially kicked me out of the house. Okay.
So I got sober, and I thought that, now I'm sober, so now, I can come back home. And she was like, oh no, you're not coming back home. And so what happened was I found out that she was seeing somebody.
Oh.
Somebody had been there to support her through my debauchery. So I had abandoned the family, abandoned her through the pregnancy, and there was a friend of hers that was supporting her in this, and that relationship started to shift. And guess what? I didn't know about it, but I suspected something. So when I snuck into the house, because I could, when she wasn't there, and I started reading her diary, just to find out what was going on. And I find out all this information. I mean, let me tell you something. For those of you that are watching and listening, don't ever read your wife or husband's diary. You don't want to read what's in there.
Right. I'm doing an Instagram live, by the way. Like, we're making sure we're broadcasting this on Facebook, and that's why the phone is right here, trying to keep it away. But yeah, people are always afraid, because a big part of what I teach people to do is to journal. And I always tell them, like, they always say, well, I'm afraid that they'll see my diary. And I'm like, just write. That's their problem. That's their problem, what they find out. That's for your eyes only, So, wow. So that's what happened. You just found out this was going on, and you went.
I just decided that I was not prepared for that. I was not prepared for that. The blow was too hard. And instead of leaning on my group, leaning on the 12 steps, leaning on the fellowship, asking for help, I chose to take matters into my own hands. And I went and got, a couple bottles of booze and just went on a bender.
Yeah.
I went on a tear. And, if you want to know what turned it all around for me, that's why I relapsed. But then I disappeared for a few days, and she was wondering where I was at. And what happened was I'd been up for like 3 days, locked up in my apartment, doing a bunch of cocaine, paranoid through the roof. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, she shows up with my daughter, and my daughter is only a month old at the time.
Sure.
So she was born February 26th. And so March 26th, or a little bit, around that time, I got a knock on the door, and I'm like, 9 o'clock in the morning. Who's coming to get me?
Right.
Right. And so I peek out the window, and there she is, holding my daughter, and I was like, I never felt, and I'd wished for death 6 months ago, but that was worse. That moment, I looked out the window, and at that moment, I felt like the biggest piece of shit ever, and that the worst part was that when she was born, I was holding her in my arms in the hospital because her mom got a C-section, and so she was out cold, and the nurse is like, well, you can stay. You want to hold your baby? That one always gets me. So I'm by myself with her, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm a recovering drug addict with like 4 months sober at that time. I hadn't relapsed yet. But there I was, and I had no idea what I was going to do. But I just sat there and I held her, and I was like, God help me. I have no skills. I'm a drug addict with 4 months sober, and I have no idea what to do. But I need your help because I can't do this, So, that was my first kind of like reach out to God moment. Well, it was not, my first. My first was, take me out of this world. Then the next one was like, help me raise this kid. I do not want to be a cautionary tale in her life. I don't want her to be 16 years old, right, and somebody say, what does your dad do for a living? And her to say, well, my dad died of a drug overdose, or my dad's in jail, or my dad is all these things.
Yeah, he's a loser or something.
Yeah, he's a deadbeat, whatever. My dad's just, piece of shit drug addict. Wow. And all these things were like running through my head as I'm holding her in the delivery room. Then I find out about the guy, and then I relapse, and then they're sitting outside. I can see them outside. And then I was like, you know what? What happened to that promise? What happened to you asking God to help you? You're not doing shit. You're not doing anything to help yourself. And so, why don't you stop? Why don't you just get off the pity pot and just make it happen? Just do something, right? If this is right now, it's about you. It needs to not be about you, and it needs to be about her. I don't even know where that came from. It must have been God, because that's what came in strong for me at that moment, was that it's not about you, because you don't give a shit about you anymore, right? It's about her. So if you've got nothing to live for, then here it is. And from that moment on, I went and spiraled out of control for, that was March, April. So basically throughout the April and May, I spiraled out of control, trying to reel myself in, always knowing that she was my why. And then finally, I got a new sponsor. Nice. And that was May 25th. So it was like, I need help. And he says, I can help you. Here's what you need to do. And from that moment on, May 26, 2003 was the last time. Well, that was my first day, actual day. May 25th was my last day using. So May 26th was when I walked back in. I said, I surrender, never again. And that was over 15 years ago. It'll be 16 years this May.
In May. Wow. Congratulations. What a story. And, there were several things. By the way, I want to tell you, Ramiro has been watching. He has an interesting comment towards the end. He says, one time someone told me, hello, I come from the future and I want to tell you that your life is on the other side. So it sounds like that's what happened to you. There was the life on the other side and the only thing you had known was that life. And then you made multiple decisions because it doesn't sound like there was just one decision. A lot of times people are like, what's the defining moment? And I always think that there isn't always one. There's a whole bunch of one defining moments. But as long as you make that first one, whatever that is, and then you make the next one, whatever that is, and you make the next one, and you kept making them, because every day not choosing to drink and choosing life and choosing your daughter was a defining moment for you, right? And one more day of victory was one more day of life with your daughter so that you can get to this point and celebrate with her. Jamie's also watching and she says, hi guys, love you. So thank you, Jamie, for watching. And we have a whole bunch of people connected on Instagram as well. So hi to everybody that's watching us on Instagram and just kind of, making sure that everybody knows that we are so grateful that you guys are here watching. This is so important. Omar, thank you for sharing and for being so open and vulnerable. One of the things you said was do something. You had your why, which that was your daughter, and
Yes.
I don't know, there's people watching and they might be in the cycle of addiction. And, addiction in essence is soothing anything from pain, any pain. For you, it was the fact that you never had a real identity, the fact that you were never able to be fully yourself. And now you get into drugs and alcohol and you're able to be fully uninhibited. You get to be yourself, right? And so
that was my first experience with being self-actualized.
Right. Well, and isn't it that for other people?
It's true.
Yeah. And one of the myths I want to talk about is addiction isn't just drugs and alcohol. Yeah, it's gambling, it's shopping, but it's work. It's going to the gym. It's, your spouse. That's what an enabler is. An enabler is someone whose addiction becomes their spouse because their spouse has an addiction, or their boyfriend or girlfriend has an addiction.
Absolutely.
Their parent. So no matter what relationship you are, the addiction can be someone else. For other people, it's sex in the way of pornography or any kind of sexual addiction or infidelity. These are the addictions that are a little bit more accepted in our society, right?
Yes.
Another one is church. Like for those people that love going to church and they love serving others, serving others, if it's done out of a place of emptiness, can definitely be an addiction. So there's nobody. That's why we want to educate. Omar and I partnered up with this Facebook Live and wanting to make sure that we educate people, letting them know we all have a tendency. We all have tendencies that we go to. Like for me, Haagen-Dazs chocolate chip ice cream, is my go-to. Anyone might be like, Shirley, that's not an addiction. No, my addiction used to be my kids. That was my sense of purpose and identity. My husband was my addiction, controlling him and making sure that he made me happy. And work, even though I didn't work outside of the home, there was always something to do. I could never rest. So being addicted to the busyness of life and almost becoming a person who is narcissist. Not that's not the word I'm looking at, narcissist, but masochist. Like you're constantly wanting to be abused in some way. That becomes an addiction. But in some way, it gives us attention, right? The one that has the least power is the one that has the most power. And so just want to make sure that every single one of you watching understands that addiction is not limited to drugs and alcohol. Now, the difficult part is that when it is drugs and alcohol, there is a physical, chemical dependency that makes it a little bit harder. But as Omar has shown, not impossible at all. He had his why and he had his daily decision to do something about it. And he said, do something. So, Omar, what is life like after you deciding to be sober? Like what was life like after that, and what is life like after now?
Well, just to prepare anyone who has dealt with addiction on that level, because when we talk about addiction to phone, addiction to people, those kind of addictions, right, they're a lot more. The consequences are not as immediate, so they're kind of like these ongoing consequences of being addicted to my phone, being addicted to people, being addicted to ice cream. But the thing about being addicted to drugs is that the heightened sense of that feeling of that compulsion to use, that need for it. It's different. Your body craves the drug. So much has happened. So much wreckage has been caused. So if I speak from my place and what happened to me, you cause so much wreckage that every moment that you're sober, you start to relive these events, and you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that." Right? And so,
it's like shame.
It's tremendous, tremendous. It's just regret and guilt and shame and remorse. And so the thing is, you cannot do it alone,
right?
Because as they come up, you immediately want to soothe that guilt. You immediately want to soothe that shame. And you want to run out and say, "I'm sorry" to everybody. Right? It's like, "I'm so sorry I did this, and I'm so sorry I did that, and I'm so sorry." But what you don't realize is that the only reason why you're doing is because you want to relieve yourself. You want relief. I want to relieve myself of all this guilt. So maybe if I go to the other person and say, "I'm sorry," right? They'll say to me, "Oh, it's okay, I understand." And that's the worst thing that we can do, right, to an addict, to say, "Oh, no, it's okay," right? No, it's not okay. It's not okay. These things happened, and what's important right now is that I go and surround myself with people that have been through exactly the same things I have. And that's what I found in the rooms. I went in the rooms, and I'm like, I feel like a piece of crap. Right? Like, I feel terrible, and it's like I did this and I did that, and I immediately want to run out and tell them, and they're like, "No, don't do that." Right? It's only going to make matters worse. And we're already so delicate and sensitive that all it takes is the wrong word from the wrong person or the wrong situation, and immediately I want to soothe myself. So we have to recognize, more importantly, that you've been soothing yourself for one thing. And now what you would be soothing yourself is now an entirely different thing. It's an entirely different thing. I'm soothing myself from the guilt and shame and remorse of the last year, 2 years, 10 years, whatever I put my wife through, my kids through, my family through, my friends through. Wow. Like, just, imagine all the thoughts. So all these thoughts provoke other thoughts, and then those thoughts provoke other thoughts. But what's happening is really, I feel guilty. I feel shameful. So it's one or two emotions that start to create all these different thoughts. And if I'm not someplace safe where I can express myself in the right way with the right people, then boom, I'm going to get triggered again, and I'm going to need to soothe that. It's a compound effect. It's always a ripple effect. Go ahead.
And it's important that you say that, because I had never seen it that way. That's very important, in that we first get soothed from the pain with drugs, alcohol, whatever, food, exercise. And so for a lot of people, we just have to recognize, not that soothing is wrong, because we have to cope with life. So there's things we do. But when we do it in excess and we do it in a way that hurts other, I always remember the definition, how do we measure addiction, and learning this years ago, was the way to measure addiction is not by how often the person does it, but by the effect it has on the family. And so it's not like, well, I don't do it enough, whether it's watching your phone, playing with your phone 10 hours a day or 3 hours a day. If all you have is 3 hours to spend with your family, 3 hours is a long time. So, you mentioned this, and it just brings me to think, wow, first you had to soothe yourself from the pain. But then once you've made the choice to get outside of addiction, you had to then soothe yourself. And one of the key things is that I teach my community that we need community to heal.
Yes.
And that's where the community comes in to soothe. Because see, what we should have learned was to go to a community for that pain, to go to mom, to go to dad, to go to brother, sister, uncle, aunt. That's why family is so important, because they should be the ones. But I get it. When they're the ones that are hurting us and you try to go to them naturally and they don't, well then, heck, we can go to them. We have to find some other way to soothe. But in an ideal situation, now that the person is back in recovery, they do need to find a community. Like you said, they can't do it alone, because in what they need to do is go to that community and said, I need a hug. I need words of affirmation. I need to know that I matter. So the soothing has to change from something that makes you nothing, really, because at the end, you know that drugs and alcohol don't do anything good for you, to something that really is going to be fulfilling deep inside, which is that sense of community, right? So did you find that soothing soothing experience through community? Did you find that was what helped you begin to feel loved and accepted and just more like that comfort, right? And when we talk about having a hug, that's so soothing. There is nothing more soothing than a hug.
Well, that's one of the things that we take for granted a lot of times for those of us who have had the opportunity to be involved in 12 steps. Everything that you just mentioned there is included for free. And is the community, is the hug, is the opportunity to talk openly, be vulnerable, be safe, all these things that we didn't have an opportunity to be because maybe in my family I was feeling these certain feelings, but it was not appropriate or not acceptable, or it fell on deaf ears with my family. So I discovered drugs and alcohol, and that soothes me. Then what do I do now that I'm sober? And you're not going to kind of connect with what I need, right? But the only thing that you can connect with when you're trying to stop using drugs is I need to stop doing drugs. That's it. It's the only thing that I know. So the next thing is, what do I do next? I go to one of these meetings, but what I don't understand is what I'm getting in there is what I need, is that hug. Because that's all we do. We just, before the meeting and after the meeting, everybody's hugging each other, and you don't realize that you're just releasing all this oxytocin. Yeah. And you feel better. You leave the meeting, I'm I don't know why I feel so much better. I mean, it wasn't anything monumental. Sometimes there's something monumental that somebody says, but it's just I can't believe how different I feel leaving the meeting. It's just because you've just been releasing oxytocin the whole time. Right. And that's something, it's that hormone, right? Hormone? Right? Oxytocin, is it a hormone or is it something else?
No, it's just a brain chemical.
It's a brain chemical, right? So I'm releasing oxytocin, right? And all of a sudden I feel better. And if I don't go to enough meetings, I go to one meeting, I'll feel better. Then the next day, I'm okay. Maybe I'll miss a meeting today. Then the next day goes, oh man, I feel like crap. Oh, maybe I should go to a meeting. Yeah, but I don't feel good, so I'm not going to go to the meeting.
That's where you need to go.
If you understand that the reason why you felt good is just because you were surrounded by other people, and those people came and touched you, and those people actually allowed you to speak, and so you have to recognize that there is these chemicals that are being released in your body just based by sitting in that room. Even if you said nothing, you're going to feel better. But imagine how you feel if you engage, if you connect.
And begin to take a risk.
You hug. You're going to just release more of that. So that is the most important thing. The most important thing is to try not to think your way out of it. Act your way into it. Don't try and think your way out of it. Act your way into it. Suspend disbelief. Take massive action and allow the natural process. For the millions of people that it's worked for before, just take a chance. Just take a chance that this could also work for you. And what many people, the first few blockages is, when it comes to preventing them from recovering, is number one, the stigma. their own personal belief systems about recovery, the structure within there, the God element. Okay, so there's right there alone is 4 big blocks that prevents people. It's like, well, I don't want anyone to know that, I'm an alcoholic. I'm pretty sure when you've hit rock bottom, everyone that you know knows. You
Right.
ain't kidding nobody.
Right. There you go.
What if I run into somebody I know? Yeah. So what?
Right. Right.
So
Right. They're in the same shoes that you are.
Exactly. But it's just, I'm trying to find any excuse not to be one of those people. Because really that's what it is. Oh my God, but does that mean that I'm an alcoholic? Does that mean that I'm an addict? Does that mean? And so you gotta disengage from the story, and you have to dive into solution.
And I love, what you say when suspend disbelief. Suspended belief, because if you knew everything you needed to know, you wouldn't be in this goddamn mess.
Thank you.
You wouldn't be, pardon me, I didn't mean to curse like that, but you would be in this mess. It's not, damn. But anyway, scratch that. But it's just some things that need to be said that certain way.
Yes.
It's just, F it, if you knew everything you needed to know, you would not be in this mess. So suspended belief, be in that place of, I don't know everything. I don't know if there's really a God. I don't know if there is. Suspend disbelief. I don't know if these people love me. I don't know if they don't love me. Suspend disbelief. I don't know if I'm going to get well, and I don't know if I will. I just don't know. But the only thing what I need to know is that I'm here, I'm alive, and that I want to make it through one more day. That's the only belief you have to keep fighting for your life. And as you said, find your why. I mean, I know that parents of children, I have children, and a big part of my motivation, if not all, in some huge way, is my children, right? And so what happens with someone that doesn't have children? Like, you found your why in your children, and I found my why in my children. My husband found his why in his children. But oh, Liz said, she's like, shame on you, Shirley. And then she goes, laugh out loud. So at first I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And then she's like, cracking. She's laughing at my expense. Thank you. I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anyone, really. I apologize. But thank you.
Listen. When we're talking about addiction, if you're afraid of offending people,
yes.
You're in the wrong business.
Oh, yesterday I did a video on suicide, talking about like not wanting to live. I mean, suicide and addiction hand in hand. Yes. It was so difficult to do that video because it is putting myself out there, my stories. And yeah, I was like, well, what if people don't accept it? What if people don't take it well? But it has to be talked about. Addiction, we all have it. I don't love going around saying, oh, I have an addiction. No, but I know my tendencies. I did have addictions, and I know my tendencies. I know all my children's tendencies. I know my husband's tendencies. And you need to know that, because if we're relating with these people, how are we going to create community? We have to know when they act disconnected, when they act engaged. We got to know when they're slightly borderline, call it depressed or sad, when they're struggling with something. We just have to know to be able to read into it, because we are really good at faking. We're really good at faking, and especially for those people that love drinking. It's like, oh yeah, let's go party. It's all about the party every weekend. So it's very easy to fake we're having a blast. But, we don't. We're not having a blast. Inside, we're dying. So, Omar, you really are incredible. I knew what you do now, but I didn't know that background story, and the details make a huge difference. It makes a huge difference to me. Just incredible level of respect and what you've been through, what you've had to fight through. I know you didn't do it alone, but I love living in those extremes and where you did it alone. Like there's nobody that can do the work for you. And yet at the same time, you needed the support of people. So whoever's watching, you're going to have to do this 1,000% no matter what. And yet at the same time, 1,000% you need community. But dude, tell me, what is the motivation for people that don't have, like, let's say, children? Well, where do they find their why?
And that's the tough thing. And as a matter of fact, that's a great question, because I'll even say this. I go, one of my biggest challenges is for people that do not have children. Because when you're by yourself, and I remember when I prayed for death, my daughter hadn't been born yet. And so at that point, I stopped caring about me. I hoped that it would just be over. Like, I hoped that I prayed to not wake up. The first time I held her in my arms, purpose was delivered. And that moment, I recognized that it was no longer about me. And I was living for someone else, to set an example, to leave a legacy. It was just, something just came over, and that unconditional love kicked in. Because I couldn't have unconditional love for myself. It was all conditional at that point.
Right.
You're a piece of crap. You've made a bunch of mistakes. There's no hope for you. Checkout time. So the tough thing to do, really, sometimes, that motivation, or find that why, when we don't have kids, is a really big challenge. I've watched so many people just constantly relapse because they cannot connect to a why. And they just have such low self-esteem, so low self-worth. There's just, like, again, what I was explaining to you, I'm soothing myself now, not because of what the original soothing was. I'm now soothing myself from all the wreckage that I caused when I was using, and it's too late for me. So what's the point? So the strength, this is where your community at some point has to be it. Because while you're in there, once you get a little bit of time together, you can start to contribute back into your group. You can start contributing back into your community. And really the only why that you're going to be able to hold on to and get some self-respect, some self-esteem, and some self-worth is to have some value, is to feel like you have some kind of value. And the first time that you help someone, the first time that you're able to actually contribute on a higher level, you'll start to build that back up.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Wow.
It's a challenge.
But
the
it's
only
not
thing is,
impossible.
again, it's not impossible.
Right.
And I've watched it happen. But this is where community is so important, because you have to be able to say that. You have to actually be able to say, dude, I don't even care.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm alone and I don't have any kids and I'm not married, and who would marry me? And it's too late. As soon as I say those things, I'm allowing myself to just kind of open up and let it all out. Let that verbal diarrhea and that poison that's inside of me come out. Yeah. And then you get to somebody in the other room that goes, dude, I know how you feel, man. I know how you feel. 5 years ago when I first came in, that's exactly how I felt. But today, like, I'm married, and guess what? I have kids, and they'll never have to see me drink and use because I got sober before them. And so there is that, like, we have to kind of build momentum or kind of hope for the future for them through being in community.
Yeah, for sure. Community it's the second chance to the family you never had.
Yes.
For those of us.
You can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends.
Yeah. So there was, and I want you to debunk the myth that I'm going to tell you. So, in Miami, there's a lot of recovery programs. A lot of them are government created, right? So it's like, go to court, you did something related to drugs, now you are sanctioned to go to ABC class for, 20 weeks. And it is, court ordained, so you got to just go do it. Well, I have friends who have gone to those programs, and who do they find there? People who are there because they have to, not because they want to. So what do? They make more friends with drugs, and they keep so there's few people that have said, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to any program. They've almost lost trust in anything like a 12-step program because they feel like they're just going to end up finding more addicts that are going to get them back in that cycle. I do recognize that part of it is an excuse. It has to be. We have to call that out, because part of it is an excuse, because you're saying there is not even one group out there that is for real, where you will find people that have recovered. There has to be at least one, especially in a big city, wherever you are watching, like Miami or anywhere you're watching. So there has to be one. So part of it is an excuse. Let's call that out and let's move it over. But what happens? Like, what is this person that's struggling with addiction and they show up? How do they discern a place that's genuine, real, where they are going to be able to help me? What are they looking for?
Well, the ones that you just described here, the ones that are government operated or rehab types, or, anything where the court systems or the judicial systems have a role to play, there's chances that it's either potentially corrupted, because for them it's more of a what's the word I'm looking for?
To try to say they're helping society.
No. It's in some of these. There's funding behind it.
Right. Yeah.
So you churn and burn kind of a thing. Like, it doesn't matter. Just get them in the door, right? It doesn't matter what happens once they're in there. Let's just get them in there. And so, like you say, if they're court ordered and they don't want to be there, then guess what's going to happen? There's going to be community. You're going to gravitate towards the people that have the same mindset as you do. The ones that go, oh, this is bullshit, and I'm not buying any of this, and this is crap, and I just have to be here. Oh, they're speaking my language. So those people that aren't actually looking to get sober, that are just facing consequences, will gravitate towards each other in there. The difference being that in the AA fellowships, you don't have to be there. It's open for people who want to be there. Mm-hmm. So chances are that the people that are in there, they're not going to have that. They're not going to have that dialogue. So if you're truly looking for that type of community, the one that wants to actually recover, the one that actually wants to move away from that lifestyle, then the ones that are like not government funded, that are 100% free, that are the little hole in the wall AA meetings, right? Those are the ones where you've got like the real raw recovery of people that want sobriety and nothing else. They're not interested in government grants. That's part of the traditions. We do not accept outside contributions for that reason.
Wow.
It's completely self-supporting. They do not accept any sort of outside contributions, so that it does not. Yeah, for that. And what we're talking about is exactly that thing. Because anytime you bring money into the equation, someone's going to want to seek some power at some point. And when somebody wants to seek power, then it starts to disrupt the message.
Yeah. Wow.
The message is in the literature.
So I want to encourage people that whoever's watching, just send us some questions. If you have any questions for Omar regarding addiction, I want us to talk about one last thing, and then you can tell us where people can find you, how they can connect with you, the kind of coaching support that you can provide. But go ahead, please, send your questions if you are on Facebook, if you are on Instagram. I've got my Instagram video right here, and so they are watching. We've got a nice group connected for a pretty long time here on Instagram. So send us your questions. Let me know what questions you have, whether it's on Facebook or on Instagram. Of course, Omar, thank you so much. This is a wealth of expertise, and you're coming at it from having lived the experience. It's not, obviously in recovery, you have to have lived the experience at some point, but you have lived the experience, and you not only have lived it, but you've thrived. You've thrived beyond it, and you are in this place where your company is growing. You have a beautiful, amazing, large community of people, and you are doing the work. So it's an honor to know you. It's an honor to be working with you and to know you at this level. So the last question I want to ask you is the spouse or the family of the addict. That's a key right there. How they react, how they act, the pieces. They can either, there's a typical enabler that does not want the addict to suffer. They love this person and to life, to death. I think that's where loving them to death would be appropriate, because they really don't love them to life, because they love them so much that love in an enabling way causes them death. So what would you say to that person, to the person watching that has someone that has an addiction in their life?
The enablers.
The enablers, right. Who is the enabler, first of all? Who is the enabler, and what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, here's my message to the enabler. Stop it! Don't do it! Okay, so let me explain to you how that works. If I'm living with a drug addict and I recognize that they are sick, because that's exactly what it is. They have an illness and they are sick. And if I am in a relationship with a drug addict, and I recognize them as such, or an alcoholic, then guess what? I'm sick too. Mm-hmm. It's not just them. We're both sick. Choosing to be in a toxic, unhealthy relationship is already an indication of codependency. So what we have here is a very basic triangle. They call it the drama triangle. Mm-hmm. You're either the victim, the hero, or the aggressor. And in a relationship, in many cases, this is the relationship when someone is an addict and the other one's the enabler. The enabler is the hero. They come and rescue the victim, which is the drug addict. I'm in jail. You need to come get me out. Oh, I'm sleeping in the alleyway. Come pick me up. Right? And so the other person, comes to the rescue. What does that do? It gives me a sense of significance. It makes me feel important. It makes me feel good. It's not a conscious thing. It's a subconscious thing.
But they think they're being supportive. Like, how are they going to just abandon the family there, right? Right.
They think they're being supportive. Okay. All they're doing is you're just perpetuating years and years of pain for both of you. This is not going to end ever. Because as long as the addict has someone that is going to support them, in the back of their mind, they're going to get clean and sober tomorrow.
Wow.
Tomorrow. Because I have someone here. I've burned every other bridge. I can't tell you how many times somebody says, oh, I have to be there to support them. Why? Because no one else wants anything to do with them. And I go, did you ever stop to think or wonder how they got that way? And you're the only person out of 7 billion people on this planet that can be there for them? So a lot of times you have to create this almost dramatic effect with them and make them recognize they're not the only one that's sick. You're sick too.
Yeah.
Okay? You are holding on to this role where I am either the hero, or once they're in the house and they've kind of cleaned up a little bit, then all of a sudden it's like, hey, well, are you going to go out again? Yeah, I'm going to go out. What, are you the boss of me? I mean, like, I can't just be in this house all the time, trapped in here. I mean, I got to be able to, like, hang out with my friends. Yeah, but, if you go out, you might drink or something. Oh, there you go again. Now, all of a sudden, he becomes the aggressor, or she becomes the aggressor. The other one becomes the victim. You're going to be playing one of those 3 roles for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You decide. It's up to you. It's up to you how long you want to keep this going. Ooh. It ain't going to stop.
Wow. That is deep. It's profound in its reality. It wasn't until I started to really, put in that tough love that Gus and I were able to get into a healthy place. It's almost like you really have to disconnect. Whenever you're an enabler, there has to be a disconnect. Gus and I were separated for 8 months, living in same house but separate spaces completely, so that we could recreate the patterns, create new patterns, because it was a sick relationship and it has to be that way. Otherwise you keep falling into the same trap. So that's that moment of separation, however you can make it out to be. It is important. It is healthy. Tough love.
Yeah, but you weren't just separated. You were also both of you were getting outside support. You weren't doing it.
Yeah. No, we couldn't do it on our own.
Together. He needed support.
Yeah. I didn't even know what enabling was. And so an enabler won't recognize their patterns. They need to get educated, like uber educated on what this is. So you need to be in that community of other women that were previous enablers and are no longer enablers. You need to be in that community to support you. So each person in this dynamic needs their support system.
Yes.
Because it cannot be done alone. Otherwise, you'll fall into the trap. remember, the other person, the addict, will learn to be very good at lying, manipulating. That person is going to, they're either going to be the victims, and in being the victim, they can be aggressive, or they can say, poor me, and play the story, and nobody loves me, and I have all these traumas, and nobody understands me, and this is what happened to me in childhood. That's what I drink, and if you leave me, nobody else will help me. And, Gus didn't play me out like that, but I created those stories in my mind. Like, he needs me, he's my husband, what's he going to do? And I need him too, and blah, 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 blah. So it wasn't until I was willing to say, okay, I'd be willing to sleep under a bridge with all my children and, go to the extreme of what you'd be willing to do if that person was not in your life, and think of the worst case scenario and figure out how you can survive. That's when you can. So we're getting hearts for that. Because yes, we have to go to the worst case scenario and then recognize that you've been, as an enabler, a totally disempowered human being. You have no power. You are totally disempowered. You're not the victim, and nobody's the victim here. You're not their victim. You have acted like a victim in that you think they're hurting you, but you are totally disempowered. You're not using your power to create any kind of change or influence in that, and so you need help. So with that, let me see if there's any questions that have come in. I think we've been pretty thorough. They've just said, love it. Thank you so much. Excellent topic. Thank you so, so much, you guys. I really appreciate it. That's what's coming in from Instagram. Thank you. Lots of thank yous there, and nothing has come in on Facebook, but lots of thumbs up, hearts, and definitely lots of comments. So Omar, I want you to tell people where you can, where people can reach you. So wait, let me tell. Debbie says, I quit drinking alcohol almost 2 years ago, and my husband quit right along with me. Wow. Before that, he always made sure to have alcohol in the house for me. So to make a long story short, we are happy to be sober. We lost a lot of friends, but being sober outweighs everything. Yay, Debbie! I am so proud of you. That is amazing. Thank you for saying that. As you write even that, like having to type that into your phone or your computer, reaffirms that into your unconscious mind, into your neurology, and it reaffirms it to the community. You have made a decision, and how beautiful that you've made it with your partner, with your husband, that the two of you made a decision for the two of you. And what is marriage if it's not growing together? And thankfully, you both decided to grow together and make this a decision for both of you. So I'm very proud of you. And wow. And
more importantly, too, the idea of letting go of the toxic friends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Letting go.
I was in the wrong community, so I had to basically switch communities.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, vicious cycle for sure. Lisette says. So where can people find you, Omar?
The easiest way to find me is just go to my website, okay. OmarPinto.com.
Pinto. Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Omar, O-M-A-R, Pinto, P-I-N-T-O. So OmarPinto.com. On there has all my coaching information, has my coaching community information, has my Facebooks, Instagrams. Everything that you need to reach out to me, follow me, is on that website. So I make it easy for people. And the way that I coach people is not in the traditional 12-step way.
Right.
What I discovered in my journey, especially through personal development, is what I was soothing about. And it wasn't until I discovered what I was soothing about that the real dynamic changes started to happen. Because just because you get sober doesn't mean that, well, actually it does mean it. When you get sober, and I did the 12 steps, what it allowed me to do was make restitution and actually make peace with the wreckage I caused while I was using. But now, what about the stuff before? Now I can start working on the stuff that I was drinking about in the first place.
Right.
And so what I do is I coach people from that perspective. There's an emotional healing aspect of it. There is this childhood trauma healing that we do, and we bring a tremendous amount of awareness of the mindset that actually propelled you into alcohol in the first place. Mm-hmm. It was a very, like you say, a very disempowering, hopeless sort of existence that when you started drinking, it made the shift. Mm-hmm. And so now there's a bit of like lackluster in my life. I'm sober, right? But something's missing. At that point, it's like, aha, let's go back and find out where you made the wrong turn. I was supposed to go left, right? And I went right, right? Or I was supposed to go right and I went left. Mm-hmm. And it's just in many cases like a very small 2 millimeter shift, right, of information where an aha moment will present itself big enough where it's like, oh my God, have I really been carrying that around with me for 30 years?
Yeah.
And that level of awareness just immediately drops. It creates so much freedom that it allows you to start to really heal. And that's really, where I come from as far as the coaching.
That is important. It is important to go to the childhood issues to make sure that because when those things are bogging us down, we cannot find our purpose. Your purpose will not show up if you have all of that weighing you down. So it's important to heal first. I take my clients through a natural process, or anybody in our program, through a natural process of letting go, emotional intelligence, emotional healing, and then rediscovering who you are and finding that purpose. Because it's a natural progression of things, Your purpose before was in the drugs and alcohol. Do you just support people through alcohol or any addiction? I mean, I know that alcohol was the one you know.
Whatever life struggles that you're going through, really so there's only really two types of people that I don't coach. Usually, I avoid teenagers as much as possible, so I don't coach teenagers. Actually, I prefer people at 30 and above.
Right. Okay.
Just
sure.
because, there's usually level of development, number one. And then and being more coachable, and then number two, people that you have to be 100% willing and committed to change.
Okay.
So there has to be, I can't. I'm here because my wife told me that I need to come to you, or I'm here because I go. If you're not here for you, it's not going to work.
Right. Very good.
Right. The walls and the resistance are there, and you're just going to show up so that you can punch the clock and tell her that you were here.
Yeah.
But exactly. There has to be that 100% willingness for change.
Yeah.
And then at that point, anything's possible.
Absolutely. So for those of you that are watching, the ladies that are watching this, whether you have been in a place of addiction, are in a place of addiction, or have been the spouse to someone with an addiction, I want to make sure you guys also know that I'm hosting an event in April 12th, 13th, and 14th. Omar is totally aware of this and totally very supportive of this amazing event. It's a 3-day event for women called Live Life. And I'd love to invite you, Debbie, Lizette, everybody watching, ladies. This is an incredible event. I have that story of being the enabler and being the addict, because we all have a little bit of both, and a different degree of both. And I know how to overcome addictions from not the way Omar does. He's definitely the expert, but in my life, like as a woman, knowing the things that we have to do to cope with life, that's something that I would love to teach you, to share with you the experience of how you can become more empowered. There tends to be, I don't know if you would agree, Omar, there are more women enablers than men. I think it's just our personality, the fact that we're more compassionate, more easygoing, and it makes us enablers. It makes us where we don't know when we're being nice. We think we're being nice and loving, and here we are ending, hurting ourselves and hurting everybody involved because we're not used to showing up that tough love. So we need to have that personal awareness. We need to work on ourselves. So I'd love to invite you. The website for that is livelifetheexperience.com. It's 3 days, Live Life, and livelifetheexperience.com, April 12th, 13th, and 14th in Miami, Florida. Debbie says, I broke the chain in my family of drinking abuse. Yes, Omar, it's a work in progress. I'm 62 and my eyes are wide open now. That is beautiful. I am going to totally...
That's fantastic.
Look at that beautiful comment right there. Just amazing, an absolutely amazing comment. That's kind of like the cherry on top comment. And
yes.
Thank you, Debbie, for being here. We are so proud of you. 62 years old just shows us that this whole thing of you can teach an old dog new tricks, not true at all. You are probably more alive now than you've ever been. And I would love for you to be a part of this event. And thank you for being a part of this live. Omar, any last minute words on this live?
No, just Shirley, thank you so much for inviting me and for creating this space, especially for constantly or every opportunity that I have to bring more and more awareness to addiction and to enablers or codependency, whatever the case may be, whatever's holding people back from living their fullest life to feeling to being fulfilled. Mm-hmm. I truly enjoy it. You're amazing. I love everything that you're doing. I'm so impressed just with your level of professionalism, and the videos that I've seen from the event are just spectacular. So I think for those women that can actually make it, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to engage with some extremely powerful women, and when you leave there, right, prepare to ignite.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Omar. OmarPinto.com. Lizette wants to know, will the event be online? I call it the experience because as Omar and I have been talking in this live, you've heard us talk about community. And I've been doing things online for a really long time, but none of those ever went as well as me in a live room where I could connect to people, where I could look you straight in the eyes, hold you, and feel your energy and tell you how important you are, how valuable you are in this world. We need some time to disconnect from the online virtual world. Obviously, we use it as a leverage as we do here, but it is an experience. It is, you have to be there, because there's some parts of the event where you would be so sorry that you're not there. I promise you. Like, you can't, it's like me eating here like creme brulee or whatever your favorite, dessert is. You can't, so it's like, this is so good. You're like, oh, I wish I was there. So just to give you an idea, we opened the event with 4 beautiful, dark skin Caribbean dancers with the gorgeous feathers. Like, when I tell you, you want to be a part of that opening, you do. And when we do samba, Zumba, and belly dancing, and we have the personal defense class, and you're like, boom, and learning. You want to be a part of that. And of course, all the exercises. Like, there's an exercise, Omar, that I do where I teach precisely what is codependence, what is dependence, what is independence, and what is interdependence. Most people don't even know, like the United States is the land of independence. It's like, that's not even the highest way of living. It's interdependence. And all of that is taught without saying a word. And it's all movement. So, so Lisette says, so when are you coming to Cali? We need the Cali community to come here first so we can build it up and then go over there. But yeah, we do have plans to definitely hit, the whole California, Phoenix area. But I'd love it if you join us live. So imagine, like, the whole codependence, dependence, independence, and interdependence taught without saying a word, with a lot of movement and joining the entire community. It is powerful. So please, 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 invest in yourselves. Come down to Miami, Florida, April 12th, 13th, 14th. Tickets are really affordable. It's $297 for a general admission ticket. They will be going up soon. And I know tickets will sell out because we are like just moving all of South Florida, our online list and everything social media. And so tickets will sell out. But $297, we have 2 payment plans. So if you buy your ticket now, then you pay the other half right around the event. It's very affordable. And if you need a flight, you can always room with someone. The hotel room night at the DoubleTree is $159 a night, super affordable if you room with someone. So it's just a matter of saying, okay, I'm going to take these, if you're out of town, like in your case, like $600, and I'm going to get over there and I'm going to make it happen. Okay. So anyway, don't want to take more of your time. I hope that you'll join us. Please, please, please reach out to OmarPinto.com. Follow him on Facebook. Follow him on Instagram. He is an amazing man to know. He is an amazing person to follow, amazing content. And you know what? This world of addiction, it's around all of us. So we need to have someone that we can go to become educated, to say, hey, Omar, I heard you on Shirley's live and this is what I learned. And we need, can you shed some light in this area, and just become a part of his private Facebook group and just continue to follow him. Okay. Omar, well, thank you so very much for your time. You're an incredible man, an incredible friend. I am honored to know you and to have you be a part of my life. So
the honor and the privilege is all mine.
Aw,
thank you.
Big hug, my friend. Oh, love you.
Love you too.
Bye, everyone. Take
Ciao,
care.
everybody.
Ciao. Bye-bye.